money can't buy happiness, and I want to suggest today that in fact that's wrong.
It would be so easy for me to just sit here right now and make another video bemoaning inflation, the state of the economy, the cost of living crisis, all these things that make life hard for so many of us at the minute. But let's face it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad.
So today, instead, I want to talk about something different. In a time that can only be described as negative, I want to talk to you about happiness. How can I be happier is a question I've been asking myself a lot recently, because just to be direct with you, I've earned more money in the last year than I ever have, and I was definitely happier in the past when I had less. There's this song that I love by Kid Cudi, appropriately called The Pursuit of Happiness, and in it there's a line that goes,
I'll be fine once I get it.
I'll be good.
Cudi in that one sentence sums up the belief that 79% of Americans share that more money will make them happier. I'll be fine once I get it. And while it's true that at the lower earning levels, more money makes people happier as they can afford to eat, medical care, education, these things, the correlation between earnings and happiness at higher earning levels becomes less clear. I think Zig Ziglar said it best. Money won't make you happy, but everyone wants to find that out themselves. Okay, what if I told you that Zig Ziglar, besides sounding like something Mel B really wants to do, is wrong? And I got the academic papers here that prove it. Money can buy happiness. Here's how.
They say money can't buy happiness. Look at that fucking smile on my face.
If you think that, you're actually just not spending it right.
You just have to know how to spend it.
Before we talk about how to buy happiness, we first need to agree on what happiness is. We also need to agree on if this t-shirt makes me look like I've got boobs. Uniqlo have done me dirty here, I'm not very happy with it. But anyway, defining happiness isn't that easy.
It's the most difficult one.
Thank you. I'm glad you agree. That's Ruut Veenhoven, a Dutch professor, and they call him Godfather of Happiness Studies.
Happiness, one word, many meanings.
I'm going to summarise a life's work in a few lines here. Lots of resources linked below for you if you want to go deeper on the topic. But Ruut defines happiness as satisfaction. And that satisfaction comes in different forms, but it's either passing or it's enduring. And you can either be wholly satisfied with something or partly satisfied with it. That looks like this on a graph. So pleasure, part-time passing happiness. Chocolate, wine, and, well, you know.
I appreciate your input.
Feels good, but doesn't last very long, unfortunately. Domain satisfaction is enduring. It sticks around, but it's partial. So you could love your job, but hate the rest of your life. Winston Churchill, Florence Nightingale, probably examples of this. In this category, Ruut also says that you can be happy with your country and the way that it's run. I have no idea what that means. The sublime point of ecstasy is the best moment of your life. Different for everyone, obviously, but Ruut says that the better this moment, the bigger the event, standing on top of Everest or whatever, the harder people find it then to have the last category, which is overall life satisfaction. This is the gold standard of happiness, as it's enduring and it's complete. But overall life satisfaction's a little bit harder to get than some instant gratification. That's why we go for the easy win, but that is a slippery slope. I actually remember this TED talk by a guy called Pascal.
Today, we will talk about the neuroscience of happiness.
It sticks in my head because in the name of researching happiness, Pascal put a rat through one of the weirdest and probably most pleasurable deaths of any creature on the planet. But we'll get into that. First of all, Pascal put this image on screen. You're looking at why having more stuff or even the observation of the top moment in your life being too good doesn't make you happier long term.
What am I looking at?
It's simply just a diagram that represents the activity in a neuron or a brain cell in the rat. So the top line, this spike here, is when the rat is given food. The neuron fires, releasing the happiness chemical dopamine into the brain. Next line, Pascal starts ringing a bell before he feeds the rat. Over time, the happiness of the rat shifts. The bell is when the rat feels happy. The anticipation of the event becomes the reward. Like the fact that fish and chips always smells better than they taste. You know it's true. Or the fact that you look forward to a holiday and that's kind of part of the fun. So okay, what's going on here? Pascal rings the bell, the rat gets excited, and then they don't feed the rat, pricks. This dip here is disappointment. That doesn't sound like a groundbreaking observation on face value, but think about what's happened here. The rat's situation has not changed. All that's happened is the bell rang. But because the rat expected the food, they've become accustomed to this relationship of the bell rings, I get fed. The rat now feels unhappy due to the expectation that wasn't met. If the bell had not rung, the rat would still not have any food, but the rat wouldn't be as unhappy. Pascal argues that this relationship, this little blip right here, is hedonic adjustment on a cellular level. Hedonic from the word hedone, which means pleasure. So a pleasure adjustment. We get used to things pretty quickly, and our baseline expectations of what is normal raise.
Why rich people aren't as happy, and I just think it's because they've upped the bar so far that only the best things satisfy them.
But let's just summarize this section as Ruuts says happiness is
satisfaction,
and Pascal's research shows us that expectation is also a factor. And the more that we expect from life, the harder we find it to be satisfied.
The more forcefully you pursue happiness, the more elusive it will be.
Nothing frames this better than the fact in the last 50 years consumption levels have exploded and baseline happiness hasn't improved at all. Seeking more and more pleasure will never make you happier long term. Now, I got a feeling though that you probably already knew that, but let's face it, it's almost like we can't help ourselves. Remember Pascal and the rat? Yeah, it's about to get really weird. They hooked up an electrode to its dopamine receptors. When that electrode was turned on, it would cause the receptors to dump dopamine into the rat's system. Then they gave the rat the trigger, like one of those morphine clicky pens you see in a hospital, giving the rat the power to just push a button and to be happy instantly.
The rat will just keep doing that. It will just trigger, self-stimulate the system. It will forego eating, sleeping, sex, until it drops.
It killed itself for that buzz. Just think how crazy that is for a second. It must have known at the end that it was hungry, thirsty, needed to sleep, but the desire for dopamine was so strong that it ignored all of that for a... I know that the psychology of a rat and a human aren't the same, and it's an extreme example I'm using here, but it's this idea that we will ignore our own survival in search of a chemical hit that fascinates me. Sacrificing our own health for another. So the question we now need to answer is, can we reverse that pattern? Can we cheat the system the other way? Can we engage in chemical warfare with our own brains to trick us to be happier? Yes, we can. But first, let me and Cobweb tell you about today's video sponsor, The Daily Upside. Get your arse out of my face. So The Daily Upside is a completely free newsletter that goes straight to your email inbox, and it just summarizes the biggest finance news stories of that day. Yesterday's edition got a really interesting piece on the fact that Alphabet's boss just got a bonus worth $200 million. Yeah, but is he happy, Cobweb? Cobweb's been a bit unhappy recently. He's been a bit poorly. He's almost back to full fitness now, though. There you go, sneezing for you. Anyway, we both love The Daily Upside because it's completely free. There's no upsell or paywall, and it's really easy to read. The news they deliver as well is always really timely. All it takes to get the newsletter is put your email in here and press go. He's run off. He's had enough. Or maybe he's gone to sign up to The Daily Upside using the link in the description, or I'll pin one in the top comment for you as well so you can check it out. And if you don't like it, you can always unsubscribe if you want. Right, now let's talk about how to buy happiness.
So we really are wired for this.
He's talking about giving, as in, yeah, giving your money away. Now, wait, just before you go and go all...
This is bullshit. This is bullshit.
Just hear me out.
When you give, really interesting things happen neurologically.
Oxytocin, similar to dopamine, is a hormone that makes us feel good. It's often referred to as the cuddle chemical, the hug hormone, as it's released when we connect with people. Oxytocin is also released when we give to others. Researchers at the Peking University in Beijing studied the impacts of giving on people with cancer. They found that the act of giving reduced pain in patients, so much so that they recommended using it alongside traditional painkilling medication. Ruuts said this about happiness and health.
The effect of being happy or not on how long you live is comparable to smoking or not.
Before you discount the notion of giving, consider it might actually make you live longer.
Almost every country in the world where we have this data, people who give money to charity are happier people than people who don't give money.
Now, not all giving is good giving. Anyone who's ever been accosted by one of those charity workers on a high street who try and get you to sign up to a random charity know this all too well. Just put on a pair of headphones, don't make eye contact with them and keep walking. I'm sorry if that's your job. I'm sure you provide lots of value, but you make walking down high streets a stressful experience for me. Professor Elizabeth Dunn from the University of British Columbia outlined in a study the best way to produce these positive feelings from giving. Quite simply, if you feel connected to the people or cause, that will generate happiness. And if we can see the impact of our good deeds, it will make us happier.
The amount of money doesn't matter that much.
I remember the time that I gave the woman who sits outside my local co-op selling big issues a £5. I got far more joy out of that, and I continue to, than the 500 quid that I gave to charity the other day because of a winner on this channel of a giveaway. And I get them to pick a charity as well. I donate to that. But it's not about the amount that you give. It's about your proximity to the cause. Now, I'm not saying cancel payments to big causes. Support the charities you want to support. It's not all about feeling good, is it?
Pretty sure it is.
But this video is.
Across all of these different contexts, your personal life, your work life, even silly things like intramural sports, we see spending on other people has a bigger return for you than spending on yourself.
Now let's reverse the process of hedonic adjustment. The Dan Blitzerian thing of, I'm only happy if I'm eating Michelin star meals. We need to understand that hedonic adjustment is a useful survival trait. Yes, the joy we get from a new car, a pay rise, just life, all seem to fade away over time, but so does the pain of a messy breakup or losing a loved one. Hedonic adjustment is generally viewed as beneficial because it limits the severity and duration of the blows and traumas people receive in life. So rather than fighting it, we need to work with it. Stoics are famed for being happy, and a suggestion I've seen come out of this school of thought is to combat hedonic adjustment using forced deprivation. Eat just plain bread for a few days, and then anything's going to taste good. Walk to work and see if you still think your car needs upgrading. But, all of that seems a bit extreme, doesn't it? I've been reading this paper, actually. Where is it? It's called The Challenge of Staying Happier, Testing the Hedonic Adaptation Prevention Model. I think it's the best paper I read on the topic because it covers all of the up-to-date modern thinking on hedonic adjustment, and then they literally present a model that they've tested that sets out how we can kind of combat its impacts. The concluding line from the paper was, happiness is best pursued by extracting the most possible from the present before turning one's attention to the future. It's this, I'll be happy when I get this thing that, I'm so guilty of. It's just running faster and faster on the hedonic treadmill. The paper actually suggests that we do two things to combat this: appreciation and variance. When Michael Jackson's Thriller became the #1 best-selling album of all time, it's reported that he said, He probably didn't say that. What he said was that he wouldn't be happy unless the next album sold double that. I think we all need to aspire and hit big goals, and I think that drive to push ourselves is key to why humans have been so successful. But in this moment, Michael is robbing the joy that he should be enjoying from his success. He should be practicing appreciation and not just thinking about the next target. In the study, they got participants to appreciate positive events from their life in the past with one simple question: how much do you continue to appreciate even today the fact that this change occurred? Forced deprivation, as certain Stoics practice, makes you appreciate what you have and what you've achieved because it's so extreme. Take it all away and you'll soon want it back. But walk around your home, look at the life you've built yourself and continue to build, and appreciate the fact that you from 5 years ago, hell, you from 12 months ago, might even look at what you have now and say, that will make me happy. It's so weird to sit here quoting these academic studies that are just suggesting that we have a little bit of appreciation for our lives and that will make us happier, especially when we consider that Buddhists and many religions out there have been saying these things for hundreds of years. But I guess when it's something as abstract and emotional as happiness, the answers will always be grounded in our own emotions. But I did promise you that money would also help with this, and it does. The other key theme in this paper is variety. By definition, adaptation only occurs in response to constant repeated stimuli, not to dynamically varying ones. Translation: variety is the spice of life. You get bored of something because you use it in the same way over and over again. Your air fryer, which was once a godsend that, you posted on Insta all the time, now exclusively cooks wedges and starts to seem a bit dull. Like your wedges. You want that one with 4 drawers that looks all exciting. Your car is boring as you drive it to and from work the same way every single time. Maybe a new car would be nice. Instead of this line of thinking, find ways to get variety out of the things you already own instead before you pursue upgrades. New recipes for the air fryer, take your car to a racetrack and put your foot down, and don't chase big expensive items, get lots of smaller things instead. Elizabeth Dunn, whose name I mispronounced earlier, said in her paper, if we inevitably adapt to the greatest delights that money can buy, then it may be better to just indulge in a variety of frequent small pleasures instead, rather than pouring our money into large big ticket purchases. Maybe stop going on massive 2 to 3 week holidays once a year, where you feel like after week 1 that you've lived there your whole life and you're one with the locals.
Big body girl, one pony cock.
That's hedonic adjustment. Instead, maybe go on lots of little breaks throughout the year. The variety will make you happier, and the anticipation of the events will increase your day-to-day happiness also. It's like the bell for the rat, the anticipation is the reward. Like with the section on giving, it isn't about how much you spend, it's more the action itself that makes you happy. The need for variety then opens doors for probably the best way to use money to buy happiness. You've heard of this one before, but the science is very clear. Memories in a way are like possessions, aren't they? We collect them over time, and many of them just get put into storage, never to be seen again. But unlike stuff, memories have this magical effect on our brain. When you buy a shiny new car, every time you use it, that shine wears off just a little bit. You hedonically adjust. With a memory, every time you think about it though, you experience joy. Your brain cements the pathway to that memory and you relive it in your brain, experiencing feelings of happiness, or maybe you call it nostalgia. In a 2006 study by the University of Southampton, participants who were prone to nostalgic thinking also had the highest scores of happiness and self-esteem. Experiences and memories in this way are like investments in happiness, because we can call on them to release the happiness hormones in our brains that make us feel good, sort of like a happiness dividend, if you would. You get the initial experience, and then you get to relive it over and over again. And even better, people tend to not hedonically adjust to experiences like they do with stuff. Sure, go to a gig 300 times in a year, you might get pretty sick of it, but your annual trip to a music festival with friends is something you can repeat every year. The anticipation of the event creates happiness, and while with a car you might compare your Mercedes to someone else's nicer model, we often don't compare our experiences with that of others. The key is, do it with friends, as all the studies show experiences with people are profoundly more impactful on your happiness, and thus a much better place to spend your hard-earned cash. The reason for my change in outfit is because I've recorded the end of this video a few times as I haven't been happy with it. So yeah, another mammary gland maximising men's basic t-shirt from Uniqlo. The reason for the re-record is, I want to say at a time where so many people are struggling now with the cost of living crisis, I know a video about experiences and giving to charity can come across as insensitive, but I'm also aware that many people watching this are in a position where they want to use their money to improve their lives. And I would argue that the key measure for that improvement should be your happiness. Everyone's circumstances are different, and I can't make a video that, talks to everyone at the same time. That's, guess why it's called personal finance. Personally, I've been on a journey with my own money and my happiness. I spent the first part of my life thinking happiness was a destination that you arrive at. All you need is this demo and this, and there you go, now you're happy. That didn't work. I now believe that happiness is not a constant state. You don't get to happy and stay happy, like you don't get angry and then stay. I think it's these moments of satisfaction that bookmark our days, weeks, years, and the more of those that we have, the more overall happy we are with our lives in general. I've honestly taken my own advice here. I've invested in experiences, started climbing with the missus, and it's been great for our relationship. I booked some cheap flights to go away with friends. The ones that you always say, oh, let's do something this year, but you never do and the years just slip on by. Even the act of booking the flights, like 70 quid on EasyJet, has made me happier day to day as I look forward to the event. I'm the rat getting hyped that the bell has gone off. I've never really cared about stuff, buying more and more shiny things, so that hasn't really been an issue for me. But reducing the amount that I save on a monthly basis so that I can invest in my happiness, forcing myself to spend money on experiences, has been a massive shift for me. But looking at it now, I can honestly say that it's been worth it, and it's something that I'm going to continue to do. Oh yeah, and finally, I got a new favourite Kid Cudi song.
All the crazy shit I did tonight, those will be the best memories. I just wanna let it go for the night. That would be the best therapy for me.